Al Jazeera has unearthed new evidence which shows how a suspicious group carried out the transfer of Palestinians from Gaza to other countries. The Al-Majd Europe group worked in accordance with the Israeli government unit tasked with transferring people out of Gaza, calling it voluntary migration. Al-Majd Europe has been organising the move and is reportedly working directly with Israel's defence ministry and a branch of the army. The operation to remove Palestinians came to light when a chartered plane arrived in Johannesburg on Thursday with Palestinian families on board. At the same time, Israel is allowing only a trickle of humanitarian aid into Gaza. This has made life unbearable for hundreds of thousands of people struggling in the rain and cold weather after more than 2 years of war. Itamar Mann is a senior lecturer at the University of Haifa's Faculty of Law. He says the individual rights of Palestinians need to be respected.
The situation right now in Gaza is dire. It's desperate. And I think that under a just international order, some people would be allowed for evacuation without any compromise of Palestinian sovereign rights and self-determination in Gaza. That is not what we're seeing, but we must not remember the aspect of individual rights of people who are now in Gaza in stormy weather, oftentimes without food, oftentimes without medical treatment, that are dying to leave Gaza. Now, can Israel exploit those conditions in order to displace people and in order to realize a plan that was actually put off the table in the ceasefire deal that Trump ultimately facilitated? The answer is yes. It can be exploiting that. It can be using that in order to forcibly displace the population of Gaza and assume that there is a consent on their behalf. But I don't think, frankly speaking, that in this case, I have enough evidence to make that determination. Of course, it can be expected that this will be the case. It can be expected in the coming months and years that Israel continues in some way or another to try to do this. But in this particular case, we see many organizations on the ground that are trying to facilitate departure. And we're seeing that Israel is acting kind of under the radar to remove people. And I think that can be within its diplomatic interests. But I'm not sure that we are seeing an implementation of the policy as such, which is indeed what we did see during the time from February 2025 until the ceasefire. There was a declared policy at that time. And I will say more than that, as viewers may know, during this time, Israel also established an agency, a governmental agency, to facilitate removal of population to implement this plan. And that agency, as far as I know, and I checked this morning, was not dismantled after the ceasefire deal, which does seem to suggest that those plans are not off the table and that they're not something that Israel decided to forgo. I think that's the correct assessment overall. Having said that, I think that there is a need for some hesitance and care here because, and I've written about this in my scholarship, there is a very cruel trap because the more we tend to say that every departure from Gaza is forced displacement, the more we harm the individual rights of Palestinians, including people who may need medical care, who are really clamoring to leave due to Israel's war of annihilation that became a genocide for the last 2 years. So we need to be very, very careful about that. And the kind of one-dimensional narrative only stressing the prohibition without stressing individual rights, I think is also dangerous in a way.
Okay, we're going to bring in our correspondent now, Nida Ibrahim, who's been covering this region extensively. You've obviously been following this story since it first emerged. What other details have you been able to find out?
Well, we found evidence. We found the link that connects Al-Majd Europe organization with the Israeli plans to ethnically cleanse Palestinians outside of Gaza. You'll ask me, how did we get to that conclusion? It's by looking at the old versions of the website of Al-Majd Europe. And there we found this shocking document. It is terms of approval for Palestinians that they need to sign and that they approve of voluntary migration. This is what the document says. It also links it to Talent Globus organization. This organization has been linked with an Israeli-Estonian man, Itamar Mann, and going through the document, it seems that it kind of gets people to relinquish the rights to return to the Gaza Strip. It's very vague. It does not clearly say that they won't go back, but it says in specific ways that there are special terms, special restrictions. So basically, we are looking at a continuation of the Israeli plan that has not been denied by Israeli officials, by the Israeli army, by the Israeli government to ethnically cleanse Palestinians and get them out of Gaza. Now, this document, if you go to the website now, you will not find it, which is why we think that the airplane that carried the 153 passengers who did not have any exit step was one way that the organizers were trying to avoid getting people to sign, because people got suspicious in Gaza. Why are they being asked to sign these documents? Is it legal? Is it not? So that we had seen Palestinians fronting this organization. But I also got in touch with Itamar Mann, and asked him whether he would like to comment on this controversy that he's being involved in ethnically cleansing Palestinians in Gaza. He said that he will not be responding at the moment, but that he will be launching or sending out a statement very soon.
It seems like every new detail that is discovered, it just throws up even more questions about this whole process. But the key word, like you highlighted, is the word voluntary, isn't it? Because it's all done with the backing and the coordination of this voluntary immigration bureau that was set up by the Israeli military, the Defense Department, only last year, I believe.
Yes, and if you are a Palestinian trying to leave Gaza, then you would need to have some sort of Israeli acceptance, clearance, security. We know that Rafah has been closed, so no one has been able to evacuate out of Gaza. And we know how many tens of thousands of sick and injured Palestinians who have been trying to leave and have not been allowed. So the fact that these people have been allowed signals that there is an evacuation that's being carried out through these illegal ways, but that serve the Israeli plans. There's nothing voluntary about, even if they pay money, there's nothing voluntary about Palestinians being forced out of their homes, out of their lands. And as this document says, they will not be getting any sort of assistance from Talent Globus or any sort of assistance whatsoever from these countries. So we are talking about an act of desperation, an act of people who have been living under a genocide for 2 years and still are finding it difficult to find food and water and aid to sustain themselves and their families. So it's really important to put this in perspective, that people are not evacuating their lands. This is just a minority of people. Not so many are deciding to go there. And even if we see a flight coming out of Gaza every day, we are not talking about 2.2 million Palestinians leaving Gaza altogether.
No, indeed. Can you just give us an idea, if you know, have the people that have left through this means, have they been given any assurance at all that they can return, or is that just another one of those unanswered questions at this point?
This is the key point here, that they don't know whether they're going to be allowed to go back or not. And we don't know if the first batch, for example, of people have signed this shady document that talks about voluntary migration, which could put them in trouble later if they want to go back. But we know of the 153 passengers who were heading to South Africa late this week or this weekend, they themselves do not have any exit stamp, which means Israel could use that to say, well, you're not legal, we don't have any record of you leaving, so how are we going to let you back in? And that's the major question, and that's the major concern that Palestinians are having right now, that Israel is implementing ethnic cleansing one way or another.
Nida, as always, thank you so much for talking us through all these latest developments. No doubt you will keep digging and finding out a few more answers to so many of these questions that have been thrown up. Nida Ibrahim, thank you again.
Don't miss out to get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.